Hey, howdy. This is this slice of me, YT, and the reason this audio might sound different and it might be a little bit cringy is because I'm recording with a phone, my brother's phone, not my phone, because his phone actually has like the software to like upload junk. So, yeah, it might be like this for like the next 3 videos because video doesn't allow me to upload videos that are longer than 5 minutes. So until then, after I upload the 3 videos, I'll be able to pay membership for like lifetime. So that should be good, unless I find something else better. So if you guys have any like better software stuff where I can record and upload my data and put in sound, like put in like voiceovers and stuff, I'd greatly appreciate that. Anyway, let's get right into it.
What's going on, you fellow slicers? That was pretty cringy. Could you guys, help me come up with a good intro? Anyways, I'm here to talk about something called Changed. Changed is a video game made by a person named Dragon Snow, or what's Snow Dragon? I know it's something Snow and Dragon or something like that. Anyways, Changed is it seems to be the animation for it is more stop motion more than pixel. It does look a little bit like pixels sometimes, or at least the background does. And it's a very interesting game. It's a puzzle game, and also I wouldn't say really survival, other than the fact that you have to run from creatures. I'll get into more of the story and what the creatures are later. Be wary that there are going to be spoilers about this game, and I will put the link to the game to buy it down below. Yeah, so let's get right into the show. Okay, hang on. I need some beats for this. Just a second. That sounds good. Yeah. Alright. So, what is Changed? And what is the story? To make it simple, this game is about you, supposedly the last human that you know of, is trapped in a building called the Tower, which is to be revealed to be a disease and cure research facility. And the experiments, they broke out in what was called the riots. I'll explain the riots later. It's a very interesting and deep concept, I think. Anyway, so now you have to maneuver around and escape and dodge these experiments that include puzzles and such in order to quote-unquote escape. And when I mean quote-unquote escape, I mean it's not going to be that easy. The game literally does not make it easy for you. There are aggravating puzzles, and sometimes they don't go exactly into the code, at least I think it is. I don't know, it just seemed kind of randomized sometimes, but puzzles always did follow a pattern, and they were pretty much the same thing every time. So, along the way, you meet 2 characters who are the only characters who speak in this game. That's right. There are only 2 characters who speak in this game. And it's not you, not the player. The player does not speak. Probably because of the things that they've seen. Anyway, okay, so that's the basic rundown of the game. You're trapped in a research facility for some type of disease, and now you're trying to get out and back into the surface. Now, here's how the story begins. The story begins with you, the player, who is controlling or playing as a certain someone called Colin, or Colleen, or people just call him Lynn. That's what a lot of people call him. And yes, it is in fact a male. Because there are very specific details differentiating between a boy and the girl in this game and animation style. Now, when you wake up, it's kind of like a similar beginning to One Shot. And by the way, I love One Shot. I will talk about that in the next video. Anyways, so you wake up in this water suspension chamber that supposedly has been keeping you alive for the past 5 years. 5 years, yeah. You try to When you wake up, you try to find a way out of the room. And on the desk in the room there is a clipboard with a note that was seemingly written in haste. They're coming. They're coming. I don't know what to do. I don't really remember what it said, but it said something along the lines of, don't let them touch you. They're coming. And of course that left you confused. If you wait long enough, a white puddle of what the character in the game describes as a milky latex-like texture looking barges into the room and will try to follow you around and transfer you. That's the first puzzle. The bots will follow you, well, not necessarily in a pattern, or the enemies or the experiments. They will follow you in a pattern, depending on going up or down. If you go up or down, that type of thing. Basically, it's like a following you thing.
But one thing I forgot to add is that you can necessarily juke them to get around corners and such. It just takes a lot of skill and, well, practice and patience.
You have to get the thing to step over a drain. Oh, by the way, if I haven't said it already, there are going to be spoilers. So only then does it allow you can go to the vent where there is an emergency release hatch that opens the door allowing you to get out. Now, once you're out your room, it's just empty, quiet. There's papers everywhere. There's ripped posters. There's boxes all over the floor, as if the place was evacuated in a hurry. There is a reason for this. Now, here's the thing about going outside. To the left, you can go outside onto a balcony, where the character turns into a cutscene where you now look upon ancient ruins of the city. Everything is broken, shattered, falling, crumbling, and it kind of sends your character into a shock and kind of short monologue. What happened? How long was I out? What is this place? It seems to be that you are on top of a tall tower. Now, here's the thing. I don't really know how exactly to get this ending. Well, it's not really an ending. It's more like a death scene. When an experiment touches you, or when you get caught by an experiment, there is a transformation scene. That's right. These creatures will transfer you. And I will get into that in just a second. When you go on the balcony, there is a chance, I don't know how you activate it, that a large yellow cat thing will pounce down from the roof onto the balcony, blocking your way and transferring you. Yes, and when I mean transferring, I mean yes, transferring furry stuff. That's right, that's what this game is, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to click out, go ahead, but please, I beg you to stay. A lot of people who aren't furries have played this game, and they've actually found it pretty interesting. I don't know a lot of people played it, but a lot of people in the comments said that this game was actually pretty good, and they weren't even a furry. So, what is transferring? Transferring is what happens when you get caught by one of the experiments. Now, the experiments can differentiate to different types of enemies that you encounter the more and more you progress the story. But the most basic ones that you encounter the first are that cat thing, except you don't really encounter it. If you see it, it will basically try to kill you. It's only an ending on the balcony. There are latex slimes, and there are white knights, and then in the other room there's this cat that you have to run away from that is actually a transferred creature, but it still has the body shape of a cat and the colors of a cat, a brown tabby cat, if I'm remembering correctly. But if you touch it, or if it catches you, yes, you get an end scene of you basically decked out in this type of weird Japanese clothing on the bed beanbag thing that the cat was sleeping on in the first place. The exact colors. Now here's an interesting thing. That cat and a lot of other transferred animals are very different from white latex. What the white latexes do is that what I believe, and I'm pretty sure, the scientists injected or introduced animal DNA into its body. Because it's only had a fraction and not be able to chance to quote-unquote fuse with the host, it can only transfer the body shape and parts of that DNA to the host. And keep in mind, this was entirely intentional. All of this was intentional by the scientist. Now, as you progress throughout the story, once you get through the first beginning part, you walk upon this walkway. shows the city. Your character stops and looks out at the city. And basically, your character seems to go into this type of despair-like process where he's like, is everything gone? Am I the last one? What are these things? This entire journey has made you lumber and tired, and you just want to collapse. But you have to keep going. It will not let you stop. You have to keep going. There are save points, and what I really like about the save points is that there are these like iris scanners, which are pretty cool. Now, let me explain what the scientists were doing here and why these creatures can transfer others. Basically, why the whole entire place is in ruins is because of this disease that supposedly melted from the polar ice caps. For notes that I have found while running around in my gameplay have led me to believe, and actually it legitimately said, we've lost contact with the other side of the world. Now, I don't know what's going on, leave it to America, or it probably is in, like, Japan or something, considering the game was made by a Korean person, and most of the texts are, like, look to be Korean, but it is translated in English for us. Anyway, so supposedly this disease would spread very, very fast, highly contagious, possibly airborne, and the effects would not show until the subject was already infected. And basically, once they were infected, you're doomed, buddy. You're doomed. So the scientists realized that animals were not being infected by this virus. So they were like, I don't know what went through their heads, but like, wait a minute, guys. What if we put animal DNA into people? Went along with that idea, apparently. But they couldn't.
Now that I think about it, it was probably like a last-ditch effort. Maybe. There was no really, like, timestamp of, like, certain transformations or, like, process. All it tells you is that all in the game, it only tells you that you wake up 5 years later after you were put into the suspended ocean chamber, or I don't know what to call it, sleep water chamber, I guess. We don't know what happened before that. We can only assume that the world was already in a dire state before.
Never figure it out how to do it right. It work. And then during an expedition out in Antarctica, they came across a meteorite that was exposed. And in the meteorite was these white latex-like creatures. From what I can only guess, the reason that they actually got interest was because these latex puddle things, they were inside. They found these inside the asteroid that fell. And with it, I believe the reason they got interested was they would jump on, I'm guessing, and transform them into just latex mushes. Most likely slime humanoid bipedal figures. And this got the scientists interested because, like, what if we could mold these? It just basically melts their entire features and mixes their DNA. What if we could introduce DNA into them before they transform someone in order to basically give them the cure themselves? That's right. They were planning to do this on everyone. And those who wouldn't get it, they would get either two fates. They would either die of the infection, or something a lot worse would happen. I'll get into that later as I talk about my exploration into the tower. Now, anyways, so slowly they started introducing animal DNA to these creatures. And they forcefully kidnapped people. I don't know if they kidnapped or basically had quote-unquote, well,